different the times he had been around Blair. Did she love him? His lips moved before he could stop the question that had been plaguing him for the last few nights. His parents had loved each other, but it hadn't been enough to change the circumstances of his birth, or the life he'd been forced to live. Bloody hell, he was certain she'd had relations with Henry Montrose. She'd spent a couple of nights in the arse's room. His steps faltered, and he froze. His blood drained from his head so quickly he thought he might tip over. Nay. The thought that churned in his head now solidified like the weight of a great oak felled by a mighty wind, leaving the landscape changed forever. She can't be with child. Images of his mother, hardier than the petite Blair Macnab, who looked as if the slightest breeze would work against her, toiling to keep them fed and refusing help from his father, flashed in the back of his mind. A boy tossed back and forth between parents who were like thunder and rain when they came together, but oil in water when it truly mattered. No child should have to live with the stigma of being a bastard. Who really kens with a woman's heart? He detected a hint of bitterness in the reply, as if John was speaking of someone other than his sister. He turned his gaze to meet John's. Blair's brother wore the expression of a man doomed to the gallows, but his thin lips also hinted at currents hidden beneath the surface. But truly, I think Henry may have only been the best choice in a line of no options. Turning appraising eyes in his direction, John peered at him a moment, sighed, and apparently deciding he could be trusted, blurted, "I was hoping to make a match for her with a royalist clan. She had options, but none as well-spoken and comely as Henry. The others were also twice her age." "I'd assumed the Macnab had made the arrangements." So, she probably had little say in the matter. Finlay had known Henry Graham for years and had always been aware the Earl of Montrose's cousin was an egotistical bastard, putting himself above others. The man had no heart, risking the future of a vulnerable lass only to take his pleasure with her before seeing to it they were properly wed first. Why had Blair Macnab chosen him? Were her other options that much worse? Aye, the arse was easy on the eyes, but as far as he knew, it was his only redeeming quality. "Nay, I had to talk my father into it. His health is failing, and I'm afraid it affects his judgment." "What will you do about her now?" A grin spread across pale skin as eyes, the same sapphire blue of John's sister's, glanced upon him with a glint that raised the hair on his arms. "Ye will marry her." Pulse pounding in his neck, he pushed away the odd thrill that shot through him, along with the dread that tightened his muscles. "Nay, ye cannae mean that. She will nae want me." It was time he took a wife, and he'd considered looking, but he had visions of a wife who would care for him, one who would remain by his side no matter the odds, and one who wouldn't be tempted to leave him when he was torn between two homes that both required his loyalty. And he'd seen the way Blair had looked at the Graham arse, and the way she'd not given Finlay a second glance. The lass had no interest in him. Still, the thought of coming home to a bonny lass like Blair heated his blood and made him ache for the gentle touch of a woman, something he'd only let himself indulge in a handful of times. "Trust me, 'twill be a solid match. She would be in good hands with your ties to the Camerons and the king. I cannae trust father no to marry her to a Campbell Covenanter. I bet he'll be planning it as soon as he hears the news of Henry's demise. There has to be someone else." He hated the way his heart thumped.